Hello, hello, hello. Let us see what we have. Hello, everyone and beautiful souls. Alright, welcome back to another episode of the Odin Project Self-Taught series. I'm just making sure everything is running nice and smooth. So hopefully we're in the clear. Let me make sure I'm not on the Wi-Fi. Alright. Okay. Sure. Here we go. Alright, how's everyone doing? Hope we're having a good day. Alright, so we're going to be continuing on from the HTML lesson that we were in. That's where we got to. This section contains questions for you to check your understanding of this lesson on your own. Actually, before we continue on, just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys are having a awesome journey programming as well and learning to be a full stack developer. It's going to be a tough one, but it's going to be fun. And we're actually getting pretty far, so let's go ahead and look at what our knowledge check is. I do remember we went through this and we saved this. I believe this was, yeah. So we can check APIs. And they have all different kinds. So what do HTML and CSS stand for? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Between HTML and CSS, which would you use for inputting for putting paragraphs of text on a web page? HTML. HTML is what structures the web page and what like the words that you see, the context. Between HTML and CSS, which would you use for changing the font and background color of a button? That's when you would use CSS to style. What is the difference between HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? HTML is the content of the page, CSS is the styling of the page, and JavaScript is the functionality of the page. Now hopefully I'm going to do a little test to see of the page. Okay, I might need to make sure my audio goes up a little more. We're doing our live stream in a different setting today, but in case we're ever here, we'll have it ready to go. Okay. So, let us continue. Mark complete. Alright, foundations, elements, and tags. HTML, Hypertext Markup Language, defines the structure and content of web pages. We use HTML elements to create all of the paragraphs, headings, lists, images, and links that make up a typical web page. In this lesson, we will explore how HTML elements work. So the overview of this lesson is this section contains contains general overview of topics that you will learn in this lesson. Explain what HTML tags are and explain what HTML elements are. So HTML tags. Well, let's just go through it. But excuse me. Okay, so elements and tags. Almost all elements on the HTML page are just pieces. Are just pieces of content wrapped in opening and closing HTML tags. So elements are what are within the tags. Opening tags tell the browser this is the start of an HTML element. They are comprised of a keyword enclosed in angle brackets. For example, an opening paragraph tag looks like this. P, right? Brackets P. Excuse me. Closing tags will tell the browser where an element ends. They're almost the same as opening tags. The only difference is that they have a forward slash between the keyword. For example, a closing paragraph tag looks like this. So this is an opening tag with the bracket P. Oh, oops. Let's zoom in one more time. Right. So full paragraph will look like this. Or full paragraph element will look like this. So the opening tag, content within the tag, and some closing tags, or the closing tag. You can think of elements as containers for elements, or containers for content. The opening and closing tags tell the browser that what content the element contains. The browser can then use that information to determine how it would interpret and format the content. Oh, and I want to turn on dark mode, please. Format the content. There are some HTML elements that do not have a closing tag. These are known as empty elements because they don't wrap any content. We will encounter a few of these in the later lessons, but for the most part, elements will have both opening and closing tags. HTML has a vast list of predefined tags that you can use to create all kinds of different elements. It is important to use the correct tags for content. Using the correct tags can have a big impact on two aspects of your sites: how they are ranked in search engines and how accessible they are to users who rely on assistive technologies like screen readers to use the internet. Using the correct elements for content is called semantic HTML. We explore this much more in depth later on. We explore this in much more depth later on in the curriculum. So the assignment that we have right now is to watch this video on the introduction to HTML. Hello guys.
Operator, you have been selected to
Oh my goodness.
Hey, and welcome to my channel. My name is Kevin, and this channel is devoted to helping people learn how to make the internet and how to make it look good while they're at it. This week is the start of a really big series, and one that I'm really excited about. We're going to be looking at the basics of HTML and CSS. This series is really aimed at people who are just starting to get their feet wet in the world of web development. We're going to be going all the way back to the very basics in this one, starting this week with just an introduction to HTML, what it is and how it works. So let's hop to it. So before we get into writing our own code, let's take a look at what HTML is and how it actually works, because it's kind of weird when you're not used to it. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And hypertext is pretty much just a fancy way of saying text that can actually link to other things, other pages or different parts in the same page. HTML is a very simple language, and it's made up of things called tags. And to understand how this works, I'm going to use a little bit of a metaphor on this one. Let's say you've got a birthday present and it's all wrapped up and it's ready to go. Well, the first thing we have is a wrapping paper. Now, our computers are dumb. If we tell it that we have a piece of wrapping paper, it's going to assume it's an infinite piece of wrapping paper. It just goes on forever and ever and ever. So we have to tell it that our piece of wrapping paper actually ends somewhere. So we start that off, we have our wrapping paper, and we put in these little triangle brackets, and then we close our wrapping paper. So those are the tags, and they show the start and the end of a wrapping paper. So the triangle brackets, and we put wrapping paper in there, it starts our wrapping paper, and then we tell the browser or our computer that we're ending our wrapping paper by putting the same thing, but we put that little forward slash there at the beginning to say this is the end of my wrapping paper. Now, obviously we're not just giving someone a big piece of wrapping paper. Inside the wrapping paper, we have something like a box. And then, well, inside this box, we have, let's say, a nice new train set. So again, a box, we have an opening of our box and the end of our box. And then we have our train and the end of our train. And with this train, it's made up of a few parts. We don't just have a train. The train has different pieces to it. So we have the locomotive that pulls it along, and we have a few different cars in there as well. Now, these aren't real tags, but it gives us an idea of how it's all going to work. The opening tag is always inside those triangle brackets, and the closing tag is always the exact same thing, but with that forward slash in it. That tells the browser that we've closed our wrapping paper or our box or our train. So we have our wrapping paper, and inside our wrapping paper we have our box, and inside of our box we have our train, and our train is made up of these 4 different parts. As I mentioned, these aren't real tags. We're just, we aren't putting trains in websites. But this is how tags work, and I just want to make sure you guys have sort of had a rough idea of how it actually does work before we really got it started. Now with HTML, there are a whole bunch of tags, and we can only use the actual HTML tags. We can't make up our own. We can't make trains and cars and boxes and wrapping paper, as cool and easy, I guess, as that might make it. But luckily, even though there's a whole bunch of them, we only really have to worry about a few really important ones, especially when we're starting out. And in the next video, you'll find out what they are, so I look forward to seeing you then. I hope you liked this video a lot. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe to it so you can keep following along with this series, and have yourselves a great day until next time.
Okay, so that's cool. And for those of you that haven't experienced HTML and CSS before, that's pretty much what it is. You have tags and you have information and content in that tags, and then those can also store things, and same thing with like when we're building the HTML template. So what are the three parts of an HTML element? So the opening tag, the content, and then the closing tag. What is an HTML tag? It declares pretty much like the paragraph example, brackets P is going to be the beginning of your paragraph. You type your content inside of it, and you close it at the end with a closing bracket /P, right? So that was cool. That way you guys get to see that. Let's see here. Okay, now let's check. We did that. Additional resources. Don't fear the internet's video about HTML. This section contains helpful. Oh yeah, that's the same information every time. Don't fear the internet. Basic HTML and CSS for non-web designers. Are you a print designer, photographer, fine artist, or general creative person? Do you have a shitty website that you slapped together yourself in Dreamweaver in that one web design class that you took in college? Do you not have a site at all because you've been waiting 2 years for your cousin to put it together for you? Well, you're here to help, or we're here to help. Yeah, this might be something good to watch. I am not scared of the internet, or HTML. Complete. But for those of you, yeah, go ahead and check that kind of thing out if you've never seen anything like that before, or how HTML works. So all HTML documents have the same basic structure or boilerplate that needs to be in place before anything useful can be done.
Hey, what do I press to take out a CD?
Oh, you just
the little button.
there's a little black button next to the CD slot. You push that and it'll eject the
JD
disc.
probably knows my name.
All HTML documents have the same basic structure or boilerplate that needs to be in place before anything can be useful, or anything useful can be done. In this lesson, we will explore the different parts of this boilerplate. Let's see how it all fits together. So we're going to learn about how the HTML document is set up. So how to write the basic boilerplate of an HTML document. How to open HTML documents in your browser. Okay, so creating an HTML file. How to demonstrate HTML boilerplate, we first need an HTML file to work. Create a new folder on your computer and name it HTML boilerplate. So we're going to go here and we're going to open a list. So okay, so we have our repos. So we're going to create a new folder, and let's make it on our desktop. So let's cd to desktop, and let's list what we have here. Alright, we're gonna make directory and call it HTML boilerplate. Within that folder, so let's go into that, and we're going to make a file and call it index.html. To let your computer know we want to create an HTML file, we need to append the file name with the HTML. Okay. You're probably already familiar with a lot of different types of files. For example, doc, PDF, and image files. So let your computer know we want to create an HTML file. We named it, we ended the file name with .html. Extensions, as we have done when creating HTML file. I was just telling what we did. Okay. Is it worth noting that we named our HTML file index? We should always name the HTML file that will contain the homepage of our websites index.html. This is because web servers will by default look for an index.html page when users land on our website, and not having one will cause big problems. The doctype. Every HTML page starts with a doctype declaration. The doctype's purpose is to tell the browser what version of HTML it's used to render the document. The latest version of HTML is HTML5, and the doctype for that version is simply open or tagline with a doctype HTML. The doctypes for older versions of HTML were a bit more complicated. For example, this doctype declaration for HTML, like this. However, we probably won't ever want to be using an older version of HTML, and so we'll always use the declaration of doctype HTML. Open the index.html file created earlier in your text editor. Okay, so I believe we're going to do code like that, and it should open up. Right? Cool. After we declare the doctype, we need to provide an HTML element. This is what's known as the root element of the document, meaning that every other element in the document will be a descendant of it. This becomes more important later on when we learn about manipulating HTML with JavaScript. For now, just know that HTML element should be included in every HTML document. Back in the index.html file, let's add the HTML element by typing out its opening and closing tags, like so. Okay, so first we're going to add a declaration of doctype, right? And then we're going to HTML lang equals, oh, and see it's already finishing for us. Awesome. Close. Boom. Okay. What is the lang attribute? Lang specifies the language of the text content in that element. This attribute is primarily used for improving accessibility of the web page. It allows assistive technologies, for example screen readers, to adapt according to the language and invoke correct pronunciation. Head element. The head element is where we put important meta information about our web pages and stuff required for our web pages to render correctly in the browser. Inside the head, we should not use any elements that display content on the page or on the web page. The charset meta element, which we should always have the meta tag for the charset encoding of the web page in the head element. Meta charset UTF-8 or UTF-8 in quotation marks. Setting the encoding is very important because it ensures that the web page will display special symbols and characters from different languages correctly in the browser. There are many more elements that can go within the head of an HTML document. However, for now it's only crucial to know about the two elements we have covered here. We will introduce more elements that go into the head throughout the rest of the curriculum. Title element. Another element we should always include in the head of an HTML document is the title element. Title. My first web page. Closing. What, baby? Wow, are you driving fast? She's on a little car. Okay, the title element is used to give web pages a human readable title, which is displayed in our web page browsers tab. If we didn't include a title element, the web pages. Oh, can you? Oh, hold on, baby. Okay. Alright. So the title elements to give web pages human readable title, which is displayed on our web pages browser tab, and that's going to be this up here. So, right, the main page would have something, and then we go into lessons, and then into this file, right? But index would be the main one. But that title is what is displayed here. Foundations HTML boilerplate. If we didn't include a title element, the web page's title would default to its file name. In our case, that would be index.html, which isn't very meaningful for our users. This would make it very difficult to find our web page if the user has many browser tabs open. In our index.html file, let's add a head element with a char set meta element and title within it. The head element goes within the HTML elements and should always be first elements under the opening HTML tag. Okay. So now that we have Doctype, HTML, head, meta, char set, Utf-8, and then add a title within the head. My first web page. And let's make sure to save every time, which would be Control S. Jaylee, go take your baby to mommy. Oh my goodness. Body element. The final element needed to complete the HTML boilerplate is the body element. This is where all the content will be displayed to users. This is where all the content that will be displayed to users will go. The text, images, lists, links, and so on. To complete the boilerplate, add a body element to the index.html file. The body element also goes within the HTML element, and this is always below the head element, like so. Boom. Okay. So now we have our head, title, body, our declaration. Okay, so viewing HTML files on the browser. The HTML files in the I'm having trouble today. The HTML boilerplate in the index.html file is complete at this point. But how do you view it in the browser? There are a couple of different options. A note: in order to avoid branching our lessons instruction to accommodate for all of the different differences between browsers, we're going to be using Google Chrome as our primary browser for the remainder of this course. All references to the browser will pertain specifically to Google Chrome. We strongly suggest you use Google Chrome for all of your testing going forward. You can drag and drop an HTML file from your text editor into the address bar of your browser. Now it's blank. You can find the HTML file on your system, double click it, you'll open it by default, and 3, you can use a terminal to open the file in your browser. Ubuntu, navigate to directory containing the file, type Google-Chrome index.html, Okay, so you can also use your terminal. Cool. Using one of the methods above, open up the index.html file you've been working on. You'll notice the screen is blank. This is because we don't have anything in our body to display. Back in the index.html file, let me see. Yep. Sorry, my brain's going blank. Back in our index.html file, let's add a heading. More of these later. To the body and save the save the file. Okay, so inside of our body, we're gonna add hello world. And then we can refresh the page. Yay! Now if you refresh the page in the browser, you should see the changes take effect. Reading and the heading hello world will be displayed. VS Code has a built-in shortcut you can use for generating all the boilerplate in one go. Please note that this shortcut only works while editing a file with the .html extension or a text file with HTML language already selected. To trigger this shortcut, delete everything in the index.html file and just enter on the first line. This will bring up a couple options. Press the enter key to choose the first one, and voila, you should have all the boilerplate populated for you. So instead of doing that, they just taught us the order. We can just do this. Boom. But it's still good to know how to write the boilerplate yourself in case you find yourself using a text editor like Notepad, heaven forbid, which doesn't have the shortcut. Try not to use this shortcut in your first few HTML projects so you can build some muscle memory from writing the boilerplate code. So let's actually do it ourselves, right? Let's go. Oh. Right. And then we're going to have a HTML tag. Then we're going to have a head tag. And then we're going to have a meta. Right? Hold on. Yeah. Meta charset Utf-8 title my first web page, and then below add a body, and then oops. Let's see if it works still. Okay. So Doctype HTML head, the meta charset Utf-8. Head has a meta and title. So head has a meta charset and title. Okay. Just so we can try to remember that. Watch and follow along with Kevin Powell's brilliant building your first web page video. Build some muscle memory by deleting the contents of the index.html file and trying to rewrite out all the boilerplate again from memory. Don't worry if you have to peek at the lesson content the first few times if you get stuck. Just keep going until you can do it a couple times from memory. So let's try it again. Alright. Sorry, HTML head meta charset Utf-8 and then title. And then below the head we have a body, and then we can put whatever we want in there. And just to make sure, we can always check it. Boom, works. And one more time for good practice, right? It doesn't hurt. Doctype, HTML, head, meta, try set, Utf-8, title, oops, and then just to make sure. Okay, and then run your boilerplate through an HTML validator. Validators ensure your markup is correct and are an excellent learning tool as they provide feedback on syntax errors you may be making often and aren't aware of, such as missing closing tags, extra spaces in your HTML. Let me see what this does. Desktop. Oh, we forgot to add the language. And where was that at? Okay. Okay, cool. So we can't forget the language in HTML. Don't forget the language in HTML, is what it's telling us. Okay, so this section contains questions for you to check your understanding of the lesson on your own. If you're having trouble answering a question, click it and review the material it links to. What is the purpose of the Doctype declaration? To declare that it is HTML document. What is the HTML element? HTML element is also, because we declared it and now we're actually, this is where all the HTML content is going to be inside of. What is the purpose of the head element? I believe that was to give it a title, and then see, element is where we put important meta information. Okay, so put meta information and stuff. Our web page is to render correctly in the browser. Inside the head, we should not use any element that displays content on the web page. So nothing that displays on the web page, but meta information about our web page. And what is the purpose of the body? That is what's going to display on our web page. That's the content. Additional resources. This section contains helpful links related to content. Hold on. Oops. Okay, just making sure we're doing good here. Read through the article. Charts that you should use with HTML pages. Another option for opening an HTML page is in the browser is using a live server extension with VS Code. This will open your HTML document, automatically refresh it every time you save the document. However, we recommend not using this extension and instead of doing it the old-fashioned way by opening the page and refreshing the page manually in the browser for your first few HTML projects. In this way, you can get used to that process and won't become reliant on extensions right away. One reason is that there may be subtle differences when using extensions. For example, Live Server will always use Utf-8 character encoding and not the value defined in your meta charset attribute. This could potentially hide some characteristics or characters on your site not being encoded in the way you expect. If you wish, you can add the lang attribute to individual elements through the web page. Read through this doc for a better understanding of the language attribute. Okay, so I guess we can go take a look at that video, huh?
I spend my time making handmade goods to sell, not learning how to design an online store. That's why I use Shopify.
I won't watch the whole
Well,
thing.
the very first step to building a website is to create a place for it to live. So I'm going to go and make a new folder on my desktop. So I'm just going to right click, new folder, and my first website. And there we go. I got a nice little folder there. A little bit of photography probably knows what the meta or what meta information is, and it's sort of extra information. In photography, when you take a picture with a digital camera, it's going to save the ISO, it's going to save the shutter speed, probably even the location and time and date and all those things. So all that information is saved with the photo, but if you look at the photo, you don't see it. You have to use some software to get that extra information. So a meta tag like this is a little bit the same. There's a lot of different ones, but the only one that's essential is the charset UTF. And you can see this is actually autofilling for me, so I'm going to go right there and double click on it and get my charset UTF-8. And this seems a little strange. Basically, we're just telling the browser what character set we're using. It's all about the characters that are embedded. So all these letters that are on there, that this is what easier to read you don't necessarily have to rewrite all of this each and every time. So I really hope you learned something watching this.
Okay, it's pretty much what we had did. And then HTML encoding. What are the chart lists and which one to use? So this is okay. Understanding HTML character encoding. The need for character encoding arises from the huge selection of characters available. Apart from usual Latin letters and Arabic numbers, there are also foreign alphabets, mathematical symbols, and other special characters. However, documents that have different HTML encodings defined can display them differently. An incorrectly interpreted text leads to a variety of issues. Users can't read the text properly, search engines can't find the data, machines can't process the information. All the available characters are grouped in specific sets, also called charsets for short. By defining HTML encoding, you let the browser access a particular set and display its characters correctly. Note, the Japanese even have the special term for a poorly interpreted bunch of characters, mojibake. ASCII or ASCII, the most basic charset. The first and simplest HTML character encoding is called ASCII, or ASCII, or ACS2, ACSII. I don't know what to call it. Most modern charsets use it as a standard base. ASCII stands for American Standard Code for Information Interchange. American Standard Code for Information Interchange. It has been developed from telegraph code in the early 1960s and contains 128 characters, 95 of which are printable. Lowercase Latin letters, uppercase Latin letters, punctuation symbols, numbers from 0 to 9. The 33 unprintable characters are also called control characters. These are the transparent symbols, hyphen, e.g. ones that allow separating words or paragraphs. However, the popularity of ACII fell as the internet grew more and more international. Only supporting Latin characters became quickly not enough. What is this? You press the option Utf-8. Unicode is the industry standard using the consistency of character encoding. It was published in the early 1990s and has a few car sets, such as Utf-8, Utf-16, and Utf-32. Utf-8 stands for Unicode Transformation Format 8-bit and has held the title of the most popular HTML character encoding since 2008. By 2019, more than 90% of all websites use Utf-8. It is also recommended to use as the default HTML character encoding by the World Web Consortium. I thought it was World Wide Web Consortium, W3C. Anyway, there are multiple compelling reasons to use Utf-8. It supports many languages. It is completely compatible with ASCII. It is natively used by XML. It uses less space than other Unicode settings. To declare Utf-8 as your preferred HTML character encoding, you'll need to use the meta tag with the car set attribute and Utf-8 as its value. Alternative HTML encodings. You can find a ton of alternative codings in the Encoding Living Standard, created by the Web Hypertext Application Technology Working Group, or WHATWG. However, we strongly advise you stay with Utf-8 as the other car sets contain a smaller selection of characters, and that might cause issues in displaying your website. HTML encoding useful tips. The proper display for your characters depends not only on your car sets but also the chosen font. Not all of them have versions of every character. If the font you chose does not have the symbol you need, it will either look for matches in other formats or display another character. Okay. Pretty cool. Just kind of explain like the history of it, right? Okay, you can use different languages, but I'm sorry, I only speak English, but for anyone else that speaks a different language, you can put it on there. Alright, let's mark this one as complete. And let's do this one more time. Ready? Doctype, HTML. Keep doing the same thing. HTML. Right, but in here we're gonna put lang in. Okay. And then here we'll put a head. And in there we'll put a meta tag with the car set of Utf-8. And we'll also put a title of my first web page. Okay, and then we'll add a body, and we'll add a heading. My first. Hello world. And actually I want to go history. Is that this website? Nope. Okay, cool. And we're actually gonna add we're gonna call this HTML checker. Yeah. Okay, let's close those. Hey, beautiful. Now we're actually writing stuff. Hello world. We can also add food done. No. We can add a paragraph tag, and we can put like, this is my first ever website. Just kidding. I've done this before, but I want to show others how to create this for themselves. And then we can save it, and then we can go here, refresh it. This is my first ever website. Just kidding. Most content on the webpage is text-based, so you'll find yourself needing to work with HTML text elements quite a bit. In this lesson, we will learn about the text-based elements you are likely to use the most. This section contains general overview of topics that you will learn this lesson. How to create paragraphs, how to create headings, how to create bold text, how to create italicized text, the relationship between nested elements, and how to create HTML elements, or how to create HTML comments. And I think comments would be like, I forgot how to do it. Control K. No, cancel. Help, shell commands, what is it called? Dang it. Comments. Control C. No, it's not working. Okay, we'll see. It's gonna show us. Oh well. I was trying to remember. Paragraphs. What would you expect the following text output? What would you expect the following text to output on an HTML page? If we just insert text inside of the body, nothing will happen because we're not declaring it in what format. If it's a heading, if it's a paragraph, if it's yeah, we don't have any information on that. It looks like 2 paragraphs of text, and so you might expect it to display it in this way. However, that is not the case, as you can see in the output below. When the browser encounters new lines like this in our HTML, it will compress them down into one single space. The result of the compression is that all of the text is clumped together into one long line. Oh, okay, so it will display it, but it'll display in one long line. If we want to create paragraphs in HTML, we need to use the paragraph element, which will add a new line after each of our paragraphs. The paragraph element is defined by wrapping text content with a p tag. Changing our example from before to use paragraph elements fixes the issue. Headings. Headings are different from other HTML text elements. They are displayed larger and bolder than other text to signify they are headings. There are 6 different levels of headings, starting from H1 to H6. The number within a heading tag represents the heading's level. H1 is the most important and is larger than the other headings, and H6 is the lowest level and therefore the smallest of the headings. Headings are defined much like paragraphs. For example, to create an H1 heading, we wrap our heading text in an H1 tag. Right? Oh, CodePen's pretty cool. We can actually open that up. CodePen. Go here. See? And then we can do the same thing, I think. And we can change all of these. Oops. I'm going to do that. Oh yeah, and to do what I'm doing, where you can type on 2 lines, you click one where you want to type, click the next area where you want to type while holding the control key, and then you can change it to how you need to. Boom. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, but anyway. But that's to be able to see, you know, what they're doing. Okay. Using the correct level of heading, it is important as levels provide a hierarchy to the content. An H1 heading should always be used for the heading of the overall page, and the lower level headings should be used as headings for content in smaller sections of the page. Strong element. The strong element makes text bold. It also semantically marks text as important. This affects tools like screen readers that use the visual impairment that users with visual impairments will rely on to use your website. The tone of voice on a screen reader will change to communicate the importance of the text within a strong element. To define a strong element, we wrap the text content in a strong tag. So there you go. So when you wrap it in there, that's what our output's going to be. It's bolder. But you'll probably find yourself using the strong text element much more in combination with other text elements like this. So we have our thing, our strong element, which boldens it, and then the rest of it. And it'll look like this. So regular style, bold, regular style. Sometimes you will want to make text bold without giving it an importance meaning. You'll learn how to do that and see it with the in the CSS lessons later in the curriculum. The EM element. The EM element makes text italic. It also semantically places emphasis on the text, which again affects things like screen readers to define an emphasis element. To define an emphasize element, we wrap text in an EM tag to use EM on its own. Boom. So we italicize it. So we can do this. This is my first ever website, and we can do strong. Ooh. Okay, and then just kidding, I've done this before. I want to show others how to create, and let's italicize this, right? Yeah. What happened?
I don't have service.
Hmm?
I don't have any service.
No? Are you on the
me
Wi-Fi?
neither. I don't have any service either.
Okay, turn off your, put your thing in airplane mode and then put it back on. Okay, we're at 55 minutes. Okay, let's see how far we can get. We're almost done. So, EM, italicize it again like the strong element. You'll find yourself mostly using the EM element with the other text elements. So, just letting you know, we're gonna put it inside of the paragraph tags and stuff, just like we're doing here. Nesting and indentation. You may have noticed that in all the examples in this lesson, we indent elements that are within other elements. This is known as nesting elements. When we nest elements within other elements, we create a parent and child relationship between them. Nested elements are the children, and the element they are nested within is the parent. In the following example, the body element is the parent, and the paragraph is the child. Okay, so body is the parent, paragraph is the child. Just as in a human relationship, HTML parents elements can have many children. Elements at the same level of nesting are considered to be siblings. For example, the two paragraphs in the following code are siblings, since they are both children of the body tag and are at the same level of nesting as each other. So it's just kind of stating how we nested everything in here. So Doctype goes at the top, and then we have stuff nested inside of the HTML tags, and then we have stuff nested in the head tag and the body tag. And regardless, that's what creates that space too. Like if the line was in the same one, anyway, we use indentation to make the level of nesting clear and readable for for ourselves and other developers who will work with our HTML in the future. It is recommended to indent any child elements by 2 spaces. The parent-child and sibling relationships between elements will become much more important later when we start styling our HTML with CSS and adding behavior with JavaScript. For now, however, it is just important to know the distinction between how elements are related and the terminology used to describe the relationship. HTML comments. HTML comments are not visible to the browser. They allow us to comment on our code so that other developers or our future selves can read them and get some context about something that might not be clear in the code. Writing an HTML comment is simple. We just enclose the comment with a open tag that starts with the exclamation point, 2 hyphens, and a closing tag for it. And then we can put down here we are going to create the best website ever. You're too angry.
I'm too angry.
No, give me a hug. I love you. Don't be angry. Okay, so now we have that saved. So we can watch the videos to get some practice working with text in HTML. Create a plain blog article page which uses different headings, uses paragraphs, and has some text in the paragraphs bolded and italicized. You can use Lorem Ipsum to generate dummy text and place of bold text as you build your sites. This section contains questions for you to check your understanding of this lesson on your own. If you're having trouble answering the question, click it and review the material it links to. So how do you create a paragraph in HTML? Yay! With the p tag, how do you create a heading in HTML with the heading tag, which is h, and its various sizes, which would be 1 through 6, 1 being the biggest, 6 being the smallest. How many different levels of headings are there, and what is the difference between them? I just said that. There's 1 through 6. There's 6 of them total, and from biggest to smallest is 1 through 6. What element should you use to make text bold and important? The strong tag, or the strong element, I mean. What element should you use to make text italicized to add emphasis to it? The EM tag, or the EM element. I keep saying tag. So elements are within the tags. Element, 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 element. There you go. Sorry. What relationship does an element have with any nested elements within it? They are the parent. What relationships do two elements have if they are at the same level of nesting? They are siblings. How do you create HTML comments? With the brackets, right? And then within the brackets, it's going to be an exclamation point and 2 hyphens. Okay, and we're going to actually do the videos, but we're going to end the stream here. Everyone else, go check that out if you're at this stage. And again, if you've never done any HTML or CSS, don't be scared. It's going to get easier as it goes. This is actually like the basics of everything. And if it goes over your head, don't worry. I've been there. I've done that. It gets easier as you go. The more and more you do it, it gets awesome. So, but yeah, we're going to turn this little thing into a decently texted document, I hope. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all of you. I hope every single one of you has an amazing day. Thank you guys for tuning into my streams and my lectures and going through this journey with me. I really appreciate that. I hope everyone has an awesome blast day, year, month, calendar, doggy style. Yeah, just take care, guys. Oh, and those of you that are fathers, early Father's Day. I'll try to do another stream tonight or something like that. But I'm going to eat. I am starving. Alright, thank you again, and I'll talk to y'all later.